Hi, I'm Karen Downing Ripley, and I invite you to join me on a recent, unexpected side trip to Brittany, France during the 80th anniversary of the city of Plélo's liberation celebration and learn why Americans and Bretons celebrate their shared DNA from World War II. A last-minute decision to deliver my father's World War II documents to the city of Plélo, France, opened me up to an amazing experience that has truly changed my life. I ask that you join me so that you too can know and appreciate how we Americans are respected and revered because our ancestors fought to liberate the town of Plélo in August 1944. When our plane finally arrived at San Antonio International Airport, the city was sweltering with a blazing sun and horrible traffic, with our freeways under massive construction. About 11 miles out of the city, we were once again breathing free. We merrily rode through the rolling hills covered in the green of live oak trees and cactus. We sighed with relief as we passed the Bandera County line under bright blue skies as grazing cattle welcomed us back home. We were excited and happy to return to our beautiful country home with our happy cats and friendly neighbors. It was only after a day or so of rest that we began processing all that had happened to us in Plélo.
Just a little bit of history. Karen and I met 29 years ago, and we were friends for quite a while before we started to think about a life together. And at that time, I would be visiting Karen at her apartment in town, and there would be a large portrait of an extremely handsome man with a cigar in his face and an engaging smile. And I'm going, yeah, is that your father? And she went, it really is. And so she brought out a couple of photographs and in his military uniform when he was training at Fort Sam Houston here in San Antonio. And a little bit of family history that he was in a reconnaissance team and they fought in Europe, and it kind of stopped there. I mean, this was just a little bit of information that this was my father, and this is what he did in the war. My side of my family is about the same. You know, I had a father who survived war in the Pacific, two uncles who survived war in the Pacific. A step family where they survived war in the European theater, and we went on to getting to know each other. And this became an aside for a while. As we decided to make a life together, it became more and more of a part of my life as she reminisced and went through papers, and we were moving things in from various storage units and going through trunks and finding more photographs and more intriguing perspectives about everything. And now as we're supposedly in our golden years, we are fully retired and have the time to really start investigating, researching, and finding out exactly what happened, which is what led us to this adventure in what was supposed to be a cursory bump, and it turned out to be in a major event.
When friends inquired about our trip, I would find myself tearing up and filled with emotion. As we relived our experiences, our listeners would often tell us that they got chill bumps when we described all that had happened. They often used the word provident when they learned about the serendipity that led us to Melanie and Plélo. They too wondered how it was that we arrived just in time to join the 80th anniversary where Dad and 20 men on 5 tanks followed Colonel Hamsley to liberate Plélo. Everyone I told about Plélo's incredible liberation celebrations said they had never heard of this amazing outpouring of gratitude. Repeatedly, I was told I should keep telling my story. More people should hear about Brittany and the amazing celebrations they hold each year to honor the Americans who fought to liberate their towns and villages. Most Americans know all about D-Day and the American troops who landed in Normandy. Most have seen the crosses standing in rows over our American troops who died on Normandy's beaches and in their ancient villages. It is very sobering and tragic to think of all those precious lost lives and the incredible sacrifice they made in order to free Europe from the Nazis and preserve Europe's democracies. What I learned in Brittany was not only about America's sacrifice, but how much Bretons revere, honor, and respect Americans. We just don't know that their respect and gratitude for their liberation continues from generation to generation. I came to know and understand that Bretons' gratitude is endless. We must show our gratitude in return. Until Burt and I traveled along the liberation route, we didn't realize that every liberated village and town and city, not just in France, but throughout Europe, celebrates their Liberation Day in gratitude for the American and Allied liberators. How could I have known this before I experienced it firsthand? Unlike the extensive World War II curriculum taught in schools throughout Europe, we Americans are lucky to study a few pages of World War II history, which is almost treated like a footnote. And why? Why do they still care? Most of the people that were there during the war are no longer alive. Why do Europeans continue to remember and celebrate their Liberation Day each and every year? Is it because they want to pass on their oral traditions? Every family seems to cherish the stories passed down to them regarding their ancestors' experience and survival in the war. While every family didn't lose someone, many did. Others had injuries or lost property. Most had their lives changed forever. In Plélo, I realized that world wars don't just come and go. They become part of our shared DNA. Like any trauma, it is better to learn from each other in the light rather than hide in the dark, pretending nothing ever happened. We all know that history repeats itself. We must be vigilant in remembering and listening to each other's oral traditions so that we don't make the same mistakes. We can't afford another world war. I just want everybody to know how important it is for us to recognize that we are revered and honored for our ancestors' sacrifice. We Americans must stand tall and be proud as we look back and take into account all that our ancestors did for us to preserve our democracy. I now understand that we owe a responsibility to carry that traumatic DNA memory and remember what our ancestors went through, what they did for us, and what we should always recognize and revere them for, just as the people of Brittany do. Thank you for spending time with me to learn about my history growing up as a baby boomer just after the end of World War II. Thank you for listening to my perspective and how the war affected my family, my mom, my dad, and how it probably affected yours. Be sure to join me for the next episode of You Were There, Karen Bed, for a more in-depth discussion about the war in Brittany and how it affected we descendants of those who fought to preserve the world's democracy.